Welcome into Sports Tonight. Emily Gagnon here, along with Ellie Parker. It is Wednesday, October 18th. What a joy to have you back on with me, Ellie. I've been waiting for this. I think the last time we did this together,
Now, from Atlanta News First Plus, this is Sports Tonight.
welcome into Sports Tonight. Emily Gagnon here, along with Ellie Parker. It is Wednesday, October 18th. What a joy to have you back on with me, Ellie. I've been waiting for this. I think the last time we did this together, I was at Braves and you were in studio.
Yeah, it was a really fun experience. It's not something you get to do every day.
Well, you know what? We need to get you on more often, so maybe eventually it will be an everyday thing, even though I know you've got a lot more to do than just this. Let's get started with the Falcons today. They travel to Tampa Bay this weekend to face the Bucs, a huge NFC South rivalry, a huge game, period, for the future of both of these teams. Because you know what? Taking a look at these four teams, the Saints, the Falcons, the Bucs, and the Panthers, to me it looks like it will be between the Falcons and the Bucs. Maybe that's not your take, but for right now, that's who I think could win that division.
I mean, the Panthers are the Panthers.
Yeah, it's rough.
As a Bears fan, I'm very glad that they gave up their pick. The Saints are sort of waffling a bit. So yeah, I think this could be one of the more pivotal games in the NFC South, and it's a really interesting game to me.
And you know, I want to hear your thoughts on why you think that. But you know, right now the Falcons are 3-3. They had a huge opportunity to go 4-2 last weekend. They did not pull it off against Washington. It appeared like that was a weaker team on their schedule. No disrespect to the Commanders, but it appeared that way because the Commanders came into Mercedes-Benz Stadium 2-3. The Falcons had just come off of a huge win over Houston. You know, Desmond Ridder had his best game against the Texans, and then you know it kind of seemed like
interception.
Yeah, it kind of like it just seemed like he went back to the guy that we saw in London and the week before. Yeah,
and the interceptions are going to be key for this game because the Falcons are -6 on the season for turnovers. The Buccaneers are +6. So this game is going to go one of two ways. Either the Buccaneers offense, which is not great, doesn't get past the Falcons defense, or it doesn't matter because the Falcons keep turning over the ball.
And particularly Ridder.
Yes, particularly Desmond Ridder, because God, those 3 interceptions last week could have been so much worse. And this is the Commanders. That's a team the Falcons should be beating.
And you said that correctly. They are not beating the teams that they should be beating. They're not beating the give-me games. And that, to me, was a very obvious give-me game. You know, for Ridder, right, he looked decent to start the game. For the first time this season, the Falcons scored on their opening drive, and Kyle Pitts got a touchdown. You know, I
they
hate
actually
to say
used
it.
Kyle Pitts.
I know, and I hate to say it, but that was only his 4th career touchdown. Crazy.
How do you draft a guy in the top 10 and then not use him?
Yeah, the highest drafted tight end in NFL history at number 4 overall, I think in 2020, and he's caught 4 touchdowns, and it's not because he doesn't want to catch the touchdowns. It's not because he isn't good enough to catch the touchdowns. The Falcons just have never used him, you know, a lot, I should say, or the way they should be using him. But to think that he has as many yards as he does per season, of course, last year he was injured, so we can't per se measure that season like we would his first year. But he has so many yards, receiving yards, but not enough touchdowns to go with those yards.
Yeah, I know I'm in Atlanta and I'm covering Atlanta football, but please free this man. Get him to a team that will actually throw him the ball and get him touchdowns.
Yeah, it's...
What are you doing, Arthur Smith?
I know.
Use this man. He's good.
Yeah, he's great. And they're using Bijan Robinson to the best of his abilities.
Yeah.
And so you would think, right, if you like make a comparison, you would think, okay, so they're doing right by Robinson, but not necessarily doing right by Pitts. But also, I don't think they have the right quarterback for Pitts.
I really don't either.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate. But what would you say if you had to guess, Ellie, this weekend? Do you think they pull it off on the road, or do you think it's another L and they go under 500? And keep in mind, Desmond Ridder has never won a game on the road for the Falcons as a starter. Never. He's 0-4.
I think this is 1-4. I think they pull it off just because the Buccaneers offense is not great, and the Falcons offense is just good enough that the turnovers might not matter even if they happen. The Falcons defense got kind of lucky last week. I believe the Commanders only scored on one of those drives that resulted from turnovers. I think that's going to happen again, even if Desmond Ridder keeps turning over the ball, which is something that Arthur Smith knows he needs to fix.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think that's going to matter too much.
Okay, so you're thinking they win on the road. He gets his, Desmond Ridder is the he gets his first away victory as a starting quarterback for the Falcons. To me, I can't really predict what's going to happen because I don't know. I still think I haven't seen enough ball from Ridder to really be able to assess what he can and can't do. I know what he can't do right now in the sense of, yes, those turnovers have to, he has to find a way to protect the ball. And what's funny about him is he always talks about the pride he takes in protecting the ball, yet he's unable to do that. So as a young quarterback, he's going to have to find ways to, I don't know, Ellie, make better reads. I don't really know what the answer is for him, but I just know he needs to fix it. And Arthur Smith, after the game, I'm going to leave you with this last thought. He said it himself. We are turning the ball over way too much. Mm-hmm. So he's finally saying it out loud. So that tells me that perhaps Ridder might be on a shorter leash at this point, and we might see Heineke sooner than later. Do you think we'll see him this season? I know Bailey said
this season, absolutely. We might see him this game.
Okay. Yeah, she said by week 6 we're definitely going to see Heineke on the field. So, now we're on week 7 now, I think, of the NFL season. So we'll see if this will be the week. But I think that I think the leash is getting shorter as the games go on. All right, let's move on to Calais Campbell. 100 sacks, huge milestone. There aren't many players who can say that they've reached 100 sacks in their NFL career. He's been in the league for 55,000 years, so he was able to reach this milestone. But in the locker room after the game, he talked about, after that game, I was in there interviewing players, and he talked about what an honor it was to be able to reach sack 100. Grady Jarrett, to me, was the best interview, and Grady went over to Calais after he had made that 100th sack, and they exchanged words. And Calais said, we were losing. It wasn't the greatest game, but he came over and talked to me and, gave me props for reaching that milestone. And Grady said it was important for me to do that because I'm sharing a field with a legend. And it was big for that defense to share in that moment with Calais, even though Calais has only been in Atlanta for a few months.
Yeah, Calais Campbell is the 41st player in NFL history to record 100 sacks on his career, so pretty rarefied air, and I think Billy and I talked about this yesterday. He's celebrating it in a really cool way. He created he gathered $100,000, is giving it to teachers in each of the 4 cities that he's played in, and Denver and Miami. He grew up in Denver, went to college at the University of Miami, and I just really think that is a really cool way to celebrate a milestone and turn what another guy who's a little more selfish might go, it's all about me, into, hey, this is what I want to do to give back to the community. And this is sort of something that he's done before. There's a scholarship at the University of Miami for defensive linemen that Calais Campbell set up, that there's that endowment. So this isn't something that's, him doing something out of character. This is very much who he is.
And I love it. I love to see it. And, furthermore, really quickly, Ellie, he talked about, he loved the fact that he was able to get to 100, but he hated the fact that they lost.
Yeah.
And it hurt more to lose than, to get to your 100th sack, because at this point in his career, like, he wants to win, right? I mean, these accolades are great. You don't go into the NFL thinking, I'm going to hit this milestone. You just don't. You go into the NFL thinking, I want to get drafted as high as I can. I want to make as much money as I can, but also I want to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I want a ring. And so for him, he talked about how during the offseason, when the Falcons were making all these huge acquisitions on defense to make the defense better, he was so excited about it, and he thinks the defense is really good. So he hates to see, when they lose, because he just doesn't think that it adds up as far as the talent that they have on the team. He really thinks that this defense, the talent that's on this defense, can really win. So for him, as much as he said he was going to celebrate, he also hated to hit that milestone during a loss.
Yeah, and a call like that is just the mark of a true competitor.
Yeah.
You can celebrate those things, those big milestones, but ultimately, I think most NFL players would trade that for a Super Bowl ring.
Oh my gosh, and 1,000, yes. Like, you could ask 1,000 players, and 1,000 of them will say, I would rather win a ring, win a Super Bowl than hit any major milestone in my, singular career. Let's go to the Dogs. The Dogs, even though they're on their bye week, they're still going to be one of our main topics. We never stop talking about UGA. Obviously, the big news yesterday, Brock Bowers is in great spirits after having tightrope surgery on his left ankle that he suffered that injury at Vanderbilt over the weekend on Saturday, a high sprain to his ankle. But now it doesn't. I don't want to say Brock Bowers doesn't matter, because he very much matters. But now it no longer matters as far as the Dogs playing, right? Now they have to move on without him. What is the game plan to move on without him? You've got two guys, a sophomore and a freshman, who will step in and step up. So you've got Oscar Delp, who's the sophomore. We've seen a lot of him. And then you've got Lawson Lucky. He's the freshman who also is coming off an injury, who I'm hearing now. Hear me out on this, who I'm hearing is going to actually have more minutes than Delp, the freshman, because he is more like Brock Bowers in the sense that you can line him up anywhere. He is a very versatile tight end. Delp is more of your traditional tight end. So yesterday, head coach Kirby Smart during his press conference said, nothing's going to change for Delp. He said that. Now, whether he's lying or not, coaches, they don't give you a lot. But he did say nothing will change for Delp. Playing time won't change. The role won't change. He did not say that about Lawson Lucky. So I believe that Lucky will be the one who might step up, and you might be surprised by the end of this season.
Well, I think this Georgia receiving corps is versatile enough that Kirby can switch around a little bit to not have it be as built around Brock Bowers. Obviously, you've got Lawson Lucky, you've got Oscar Delp, but in the wide receiver side, you've got Dominic Lovett, you've got Ladd McConkey. You have these options that you can build around the players instead of trying to fit a player into a system. That's not to say that Lawson Lucky isn't incredibly versatile. He is. But
he's a baby, though. He's a freshman.
Yeah, he's a freshman.
Correct. But we saw Brock do this exact thing when Big O got injured. That's why we saw Brock the way that we did, and he stepped up in huge ways for the team. So that's not to say that Lawson Lucky won't do that, but it's very hard to leave your mark on a team at such a young age and come in, especially coming off of an injury, and be able to affect a team. I know Brock did it, but be able to affect a team the way that they need right now. And you're right. If Ladd McConkey is 100% right now, which he isn't, I would say he's probably like 80 or 90%. If he were 100%, I wouldn't be worried at all. But for me, and I understand you said Lovett, and he just got his first touchdown of the season at Vandy, and then Rah Thomas, I think he only has one touchdown as well. Both of those, they're transfers from Mississippi State. Well, at least Rah is. And they both transferred in. I need more production from those two if I'm willing to say that I'm comfortable with the Dogs playing without number 19 and being able to win.
And I think that Brock Bowers being out is what's going to lead to more production from those two, is sort of my point. They're options that the Georgia offense can lean on in Brock Bowers' offense. absence because Brock Bowers is so much of the Georgia offense.
And how much do you think that this changes for Carson Beck? I mean, that is like his number one target, right? The guy he's most comfortable throwing to. So now you've got to wonder, how is this going to affect your quarterback who has plenty of experience in the system, but who still doesn't have the most experience on the field?
One would hope it doesn't change much, because you hope that as comfortable as he is throwing to Brock Bowers, he's almost as or equally as comfortable throwing to any of these other guys. It shouldn't be, oh my God, my entire game plan has been thrown off its axis by one guy being missing. You hope it's, okay, we hit the ground running.
Let's get to it.
Let's get to it. Next man up.
Yeah. And that's the mentality they have to take right now. Next man up mentality. Ellie, beyond Bowers, though, this team, they're going to spend the week getting, they're going to recover, getting healthy as you can get in a week. But they also are going to start game planning for Florida. Florida-Georgia, always a huge game. Maybe not so much this season. Florida has shown like flashes of greatness, but they have not been consistent with their flashes of greatness. So they haven't stayed great, but they have shown that they can win. But in Jacksonville next weekend, that is, the Dogs' next challenge, but they have a heck of a 4-week stretch. I mean, this is quite literally the toughest part of their schedule, with Florida and then your Tigers, the Mizzou Tigers, and then you've got Ole Miss, and then you have Tennessee. Do you think it's possible that they could lose one of those games now because of Bowers being out?
Well, Missouri did take them to the wire last year. And now Missouri has mid-season All-American Luther Burden III, who is the best wide receiver in college football. I will die on this hill.
Okay.
So I think they could definitely lose to Missouri. Partially that's me being a homer. Partially it's, we have the evidence they almost did it last year. Even if they're, last year is Georgia going to Faurot Field in Columbia, Missouri. This year it's Missouri coming to Sanford Stadium. I still think Missouri can pull it off.
Yeah. Again, Sanford Stadium is going to be the key there. They're playing, the Dogs are playing at home. For me, I think they could lose any of the next 4, and it's not even about Brock Bowers. I still haven't seen enough from the Dogs to say, yes, they are the number 1 team in the country. They are the ones, to chase, to hunt, as Kirby Smart likes to say. The Dogs, week in and week out, they've struggled. Kentucky was the only convincing win I have seen this season against an SEC opponent. Talk about at Vanderbilt. They struggled mightily to beat Vandy. It was rough there for a while, and Vandy played a great game, if you ask me, beyond the construction of their stadium. That was awful, but, we'll definitely learn a lot more about the Dogs here in the next 4 weeks, but I think that a lot could happen, and if I think this is me speaking here, if they lose 1, they're going to lose 2, and if they lose 2, they might lose 3, because I think that this team is so used to winning. There's so many guys on this team, Ellie, that haven't lost. And they don't know how to respond to that kind of adversity. At least that's just my opinion. You talk to guys who've been on the team since their freshman year, and that was the year that they had the 1 loss against Alabama in 2021 in the SEC championship game. Yeah. You're talking to juniors, and they've lost one game in their college career. Mind-blowing. I mean, Brock Bowers is one of those guys. JDJ, Jamon Dumas-Johnson, you talk to those guys, and it doesn't register. It's hey, you've only lost 1 game in your college career. What's that like? And when you're living in it, it's so much easier to not think about it, because it's second nature to you. Yeah,
but you know who has lost a lot? Kirby Smart.
Kirby Smart has lost
a lot. He was, the offensive coordinator, I believe, during the Mark Richt era. And at the end there, when Rick was coaching, not to say that Georgia lost a lot of games, but it was certainly more common than it is now. So I think he has been through that process, and he can communicate to his guys.
Well, none of this means anything.
This is what it's like. We move on. We just try to be 1-0. I know that's a big cliche, but I think that's how he's going to put it to his guys. We just try to be 1-0 every week. Don't worry about it. We move on.
I agree. Let's move on to the Braves. I know a lot of fans out there don't want us to talk about the Braves. They were so disappointing here in the postseason, not during the regular season, just postseason. But Ellie, we've got some Gold Glove Awards news. Finalists. Who are the 3 guys?
So for the Braves, we have Michael Harrison, center field.
Austin Riley.
Austin Riley at
who's
third.
Very deserving. and Eddie.
And Eddie Rosario.
Yeah, sorry, I put you on the spot there. I didn't mean to put you on the spot like that.
That said, one, where is Sean Murphy? He should absolutely be here.
Okay, I like that.
And two, is Austin Riley really that deserving?
I mean,
is he?
I think he was the only guy who showed up during postseason play. He was, in my opinion.
Still, this isn't like a most improved defense award. This is the best, and he's going up against Cabrian Hayes, who is the best, arguably the best defensive third baseman in. Michael Harris should be, frankly, repeating because he should have won last year.
Yeah.
I think he's got center field locked down. If he doesn't win, I think the Braves win one. I don't think Eddie Rosario wins in left. I don't think Austin Riley wins at third.
We don't have
and
much.
Where's Sean Murphy?
I know.
He should absolutely be here.
Where is Sean Murphy? I mean, we got to take that up with the league. We don't have much time left, Ellie. So let's just talk about what's on your mind today in 30 seconds or less.
I want to return to something we talked about yesterday, Michael Bradley and the end of MLS and sort of the end of the sort of an end of an era in U.S. men's national team. Have a good retirement.
Have a good retirement. For me, Roger Goodell, the NFL commissioner, his contract got extended through 2027, so I look forward to the continued boos on draft night because that is one of my favorite things to witness every draft is I just want people to boo him when he walks on stage. I have no beef with him. I just think it's freaking funny. All right, don't leave me yet, Ellie, but we are going to head out to Bailey Burmaster, our sports director, and sports photographer, producer Lee Smith, who are with the Falcons today and just get their thoughts on what's going on with the team ahead of their game this weekend.
Emily, welcome into Flowery Branch. A lot to get to here for the Falcons as they gear up for the Bucs. We were able to talk to Arthur Smith, Desmond Ridder, and Jerry Gray. What are your initial thoughts? There was a lot of talk about turnovers, interceptions, limiting mistakes, and just the demeanor of Ridder.
Well, first of all, Desmond definitely took full onus of everything that happened last week. He's been great in taking basically everything for his mistakes. He's owning those, and he's not just throwing it off on anybody else. And but he said he's got to get better, and he does. I mean, those 2 interceptions this week. Right there at clutch time, that's not going to win it. Not in the NFL. And also Arthur Smith coming out saying he's got to be a better coach too. So a lot kind of happened, and some negative things right there at the end of the game. And basically, they both got to get better.
Yeah, those 3 interceptions, crucial. Of course, he has 6 interceptions through 6 weeks. Something that's been very interesting about Ridder to me, his play has been very inconsistent, in my opinion, Lee. And yet his demeanor never changes, which I think does speak a lot to his leadership. And it needs to be commended because things could get really frustrating at this point, but it's not. And he's talked a lot about his neutral way of thinking and staying within the play. And what he meant by that was not trying to predict what's going to happen and kind of just seeing what the defense gives him and rolling with that. And, I thought Jerry Gray had some really interesting things to say about him, too, in a sense of, he's going to learn. He hasn't played that much, so these are all learning moments that are going to be crucial for him long-term in his career, which was just interesting to hear a defensive coach say. But at the same time, how long is that leash? Do you give him the whole season?
Right now, I think you're still on the hunt for it. Kind of like last year when they had Marcus Mariota. They really didn't have a better option at the moment, and they were still well within first place of the division, so they didn't make a change until the last 4 games of the season when Ridder came in. So I think as long as they're still in contention for the division, they're not going to change quarterbacks. Because why would they? I mean, he hasn't really had that long of a leash right now. I mean, it's not too short, it's not too long. I guess you really just got to see it play out.
I also think that Arthur Smith, he had a really good bite about just who Ridder is and how honest he is, and almost sound like accountability was the word I was thinking of a lot of.
Yeah.
Was just like accountability for his actions and how he's played, and he's not delusional like some of these quarterbacks can be, because when you have that, it's really hard to operate an offense within that. And so I thought that was a really honest answer from Arthur Smith, and also gives you just a little more intel into who Ridder is as a person.
And I'll say something else that kind of stood out to me. Jerry Gray got up there, and he also said that, by the way, guys, we're making it hard for him in practice every, Wednesday, Thursday. We're not just – and also Arthur Smith said, guys, if we make it easy for all the players on, during the week in practice, guess what? Sundays you're going to be in for a rude awakening. And, well, guys, they're trying something. I mean, I promise you they're not just going out there and hoping for the best and not preparing for the worst. Like they are going through all these drills, and I mean, they're putting them through all these different looks, schemes during the week, so it's not too overwhelming on Sundays.
Well, and what I think is interesting, too, it reminds me of a Joe Burrow quote. I think he was talking to Dan Patrick one time, and he was like, it was when he was getting ready to come into the NFL, and he was like, are you worried at all? Or, like, do you feel like you have false confidence? And he was like, why would I? He goes, I win the battles during the week, so Sundays are easy. Yeah. And I think that's what every quarterback tries to do, but I think they're going to turn up the heat on Ridder just a little bit this week to hopefully get him prepared for this Bucs team, which let's talk about the Bucs a little bit. They're 3-2. I think everyone kind of had like, oh, are the Bucs good with Baker Mayfield after they beat the Vikings to open up the season on the road at US Bank, a really hard place to play? But the Vikings aren't really what everyone thought they would be this season either.
Well, I don't know if they're good, but guess what? They're good enough for this division right now. So that's really all that matters. I mean, they really do have a good defense. They're always going to be stacked. They've got Levante David, Shaq Barrett. I mean, the list goes on, and they're always going to be tough defensively. Now, offensively, it just depends on what you can get out of Baker. I mean, up and down, he's pretty much been through his career. He's proven he can definitely win some games. So it's going to be. It's always, when you go into someone else's territory, it's always going to be tough to win in the NFL.
Well, and also with Baker, I think this is his fourth team in like the last year. Essentially, it was with the Browns, with the Panthers, with the Rams. Now he's getting a little bit of a redemption story with the Bucs after the departure of Tom Brady. And the reality is, Baker always plays his best ball when his back is against the wall. So he has something to prove. So you don't want to overlook him, even though he is a guy that has struggled throughout his career. Arthur Smith said it best. He goes, he fits their scheme, and he seems to be kind of having a resurgence, so you don't want to overlook him. Obviously, they have Mike Evans, who's always a very big, talented receiver.
Hall of Famer one day. Hall of Famer one day.
Yeah, and he's going to be the guy they look for on that long ball. So it's going to be interesting. Also, something worth noting, with at least 2 receptions versus Tampa Bay, Drake London can become the second fastest player in franchise history to record 100 receptions, only trailing Julio Jones. Wow. So, prediction here, do you think he gets that?
2 catches.
2 catches.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say 2 catches. If Drake London doesn't get 2 catches this Sunday, the Falcons have an even bigger problem.
Which is funny, because that was some of the talk today, was that they have been airing it out a little bit more, and so maybe that's, some of the...
That first touchdown, when was it Pitts? I can't remember if it was a very tight window, and Ridder hit everything perfectly, on the spot, on time, in right split between 2 defenders. If you can make that throw, I don't understand why you make the other throws at the end of the game when you do that. I mean, he did say he anticipated a certain look, and they didn't actually come with that. And he literally said he played out of the system. So, hey, if he stays in the system and he does those throw to Kyle Pitts like that, I mean, goodness, They would look impressive.
There's times where he has really impressive throws, and there's times where you're like, what are you thinking? And you have to imagine there's just times where he's seeing the field a lot better and times where he's struggling with it. So that's something that's going to have to clean up, and maybe that's what Jerry Gray and Arthur Smith are talking about when they say, hey, he's gonna get better. He's going to learn from these mistakes.
Hey, Jerry Gray even pointed out, he didn't completely compare the two, but he said, look at Peyton Manning through his first season and Steve Young going to the Canadian Football League and then coming back and then having trouble and then finally gets on 49ers right fit, right system, and then he's a Hall of Famer. They're both Hall of Famers, obviously. Not saying he doesn't win there, but, career trajectories can be different for a lot of people.
A lot of people, and it's still early, and that's really at any position too. It's not just quarterbacks, if we're being honest. But this is a big game because it is a division game. If you want to make the playoffs, you got to win your division. You got to start here. This is going to be very important. Any final thoughts on this matchup going into Sunday?
If somehow they can pull it out, I mean, it's then they would be atop the division and they would be in the driver's seat, and then hey, the world's your oyster at that point.
That is exactly where you want to be. All right, kickoff coming at 1 p.m. on Sunday from Raymond James Stadium.
Alrighty, sports director Bailey Burmaster and sports photographer, producer Lee Smith there. And as you said, Ellie, this is a very pivotal game for them because at this point in the season, they need to start winning consistently if they want to see the postseason for the first time in a while. Mm-hmm. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching tonight. We really appreciate it. Emily Gagnon, Ellie Parker, doing it for y'all tonight. We will see you later this week. But Ellie, man, you rocked it again.
Thanks.
We love having you on. Have a good night, everyone.
Bye.